Honey, where are you? His heart was beating fast, faster than ever. He'd had his share of panic attacks in the past, but this was different. This was real, palpable terror. He heard her moving around in the hall by the front door. "She's not supposed to be here," he rasped to himself in a whisper so quiet he wasn't sure if he'd actually spoken aloud. "Honey, where are you?" her voice called again. The past few weeks had been rough. Their relationship had been going sour for a while, but the end of it was still a shock. He didn't hate her. He never had. It was just tough to live with someone who didn't understand your pain. The severe depression was enough to drive most people away, but she stuck around. He didn't know why. She was never very comforting. She'd always had a very pick yourself up by your bootstraps and stop being such a pussy kind of attitude, which was never helpful in bringing him down from even the most minor of attacks. She didn't seem to get it. If he could make all of the bad feelings go away and just be normal, as she always so eloquently put it, don't you think he'd have done it by now? Years went by and his mental condition continued to be the ever-present elephant in the room. Her lack of understanding and care was stifling, but they loved each other. "It's not that I don't care," she would always say. I don't know how to help you or what you want me to do." Fair enough. In all honesty, he really didn't know what he wanted her to do either. "Just hold me," he'd always say. And she would. It just always felt like she wanted to be anywhere but with him when he was losing his mind. He felt the same way about his friends and his family. They always said they supported him, but he knew how they really felt. They didn't want to be around him because he was always such a bummer, bringing down everyone in the room and making them feel just the way he did, tired and hopeless. They didn't have to tell him to go away. Out of an obligation to appear polite, they never would. So inevitably, he took it upon himself to isolate. "Now they won't have to put up with me," he thought self-pityingly. "You can't always sit around feeling sorry for yourself, you know," she spat. "One of these days, you're going to be sorry that you drove everyone away. Sometimes I feel like I want out of this relationship. It's suffocating me." "Well, you're welcome to go any fucking time you please. Sorry for making you so miserable. I guess loving me's just too much to ask." He skulked back to the bedroom and locked the door. This was a pretty common sight. Sure, the words varied and the insults differed, but it was always the same argument at its core. He was struggling and he thought she didn't care. "Honey, where are you?" her voice called yet again. He wasn't about to leave his hiding place. He went to the same place he always did when he didn't want to be found, the crawl space under the stairs, a place only he knew about. They bought this house together just a few years after they got married, back when things were happier. When they were moving in, he found the space by accident. He was moving some boxes into the closet in the storage room downstairs when he bumped up against the wall. The plywood panel slid off of the studs underneath and he saw it. A perfect little space. Cramped, to be sure, but just enough space to sit by yourself when the world felt like it was ganging up on you. He stacked the boxes in front of the area, floor to ceiling, making sure to leave just enough room for him to squeeze behind and open the panel. He stashed some old blankets and throw pillows under there, as well as a flashlight just in case. The space served him well. Whenever he felt overwhelmed or just wanted to be alone, he would go to the space. His wife never suspected a thing. Over the next few years, he spruced it up a little. He even stuck up a few of those glow-in-the-dark stars under the wooden planks of the stairs. When you laid down and looked up, it was almost like staring at your own private night sky. He loved that space. It was his own, and he was safe. For now. "Honey, where are you?" she asked again, more insistent this time. What was she doing home? She wasn't supposed to be here. Not after what happened. After the fight. The night she left for good. The argument was one of the worst they ever had. If they had still lived in their tiny apartment, the neighbors would have called the police for sure. There were no neighbors to speak of now. It started the usual way. "You don't care, you never did. Stop being such a bummer all the time." The usual stuff. But this time things began to spiral out of control. "I'm leaving. I am sick of your bullshit." She stomped off to the bedroom and began packing her things. "Please don't leave me. I need you. Can't you just be kind? Just this once," he pleaded with her. "No, get out of my way. I am done with you. You can sit in here and cry and be depressed all by yourself. Move." She shoved past him to get some shirts from the dresser. "Please, don't." He stepped in front of her, desperate to make her stay. "Get out of the way." "No, I can't let you leave. I won't," he screamed as he grabbed her wrists. "Let go of me, you psycho." She managed to loosen one of her hands and slapped him across the face hard. She ran to her nightstand and threw open the drawer. He approached to try to keep her from calling the police. They wouldn't understand. They'd call him a wife beater, a domestic abuser. He just didn't want her to leave. He moved closer to her. "Babe, come on, He felt an instant sear of white, hot pain. She hadn't been reaching for her phone at all. She went for the mace. The pain was unbearable. He felt the chemical burning in his eyes and on his skin. He felt it in his lungs as he coughed and choked. He let out a terrible shout. Through the pain, he was just barely able to make out a faint sound. The sound of a bottle, shaking. She was going to spray him again. It was over before he realized what happened. In a desperate effort to keep her from spraying him again, he swung with the back of his left hand as hard as he could. How could he have known that the blind, flailing strike would hit her directly in the jaw? He felt the blow connect hard. The next thing he heard was a terrible jumble of sounds, the crash of the lamp as it smashed to pieces, the sound of her limp body as it slumped against the nightstand, and that crack. Oh, that terrible cracking noise as her neck caught the edge of the nightstand square on, at the perfect angle. She was dead before she hit the floor. "Honey, where are you?" Her voice practically shouting. His heart felt like it was going to hammer its way straight out of his chest. She wasn't supposed to be here. This was impossible. She was dead. He was sure of it when he buried her. He was in a state of shock. His eyes, face, and throat burned terribly. He stumbled his way to the bathroom by feel and turned on the faucet. The cold water didn't help much, but it did help. After a few minutes, he regained his sight. He was terrified of what lay in the bedroom. He rounded the corner from the bathroom, and there she was. Dead. Obviously dead. A person's neck didn't bend that way on its own. Not a living person's neck. The real panic began to set in now. What to do? The police? He'd throw him away forever. Maybe he deserved it, but he didn't mean to. She was dead all the same. He'd never believed that it was an accident. He didn't know what to do, so instinct took over. Survive. He wrapped her body in the comforter from their bed and carried her outside through the back door in the kitchen. He walked through the backyard and across the field into the trees. He walked for what seemed like hours until he found a good spot, a secret spot that no one would find. He put the body next to a tree, got down on his hands and knees, and began to dig with his bare hands. After only a short time, he had a fairly deep hole dug in the earth, deep enough to hide a body anyway. He placed her in the hole and began pushing the dirt in over her. A little while longer, the deed was done. He started the long walk back to his house. "Honey, where are you?" Her voice was even closer now. He heard the footsteps right above his head as they lumbered down the stairs. "This is impossible," he thought. "There's no way. She's dead. She's been buried for a week. God, has it really been that long?" After returning home from the woods, he locked all the doors and made his way about the house, cleaning up after the fight. The week went by in a blur. He didn't go into work. He didn't answer his phone. He barely ate, and he didn't shave or shower. He spent most of his time just lying in bed, hoping that this was all just a bad dream. Finally, the reality of what had transpired began to sink in. He killed his wife. Accident or not, he was a murderer. He buried her in the woods. What in the hell was he going to do now? There was only one sensible thing to do. He had to go to the police and turn himself in. He got dressed, not bothering to clean himself up. He was going to prison anyway. What was the point? The sun had almost set as he came downstairs. He went into the kitchen to get his car keys from the little desk next to the fridge. That's when he heard the pounding at the front door. "Honey, where are you?" She came back. He didn't know how, but she came back. She came back for him. In a furious panic, he rushed down the basement stairs and into his crawl space. She wouldn't find him here. At least he hoped not. His fear escalated when he heard the glass of the front door window shatter and the deadbolt click open. She was inside now. She was looking. No, she was hunting for him. "Honey, where are you?" She was downstairs now. He could hear doors opening and closing as she stalked around the basement looking for him. He grabbed the flashlight and braced himself, praying to whatever God would listen that she wouldn't find him. Then the closet door opened. "Honey, where are you?" The voice was 10 feet away on the other side of the plywood panel. She was shuffling past the boxes now. She was going to find him. Unless he acted first. "Honey, are you back there?" 5 feet away. Survival took over. He burst from behind the panel and started swinging wildly with his big flashlight. He felt each blow connect with a satisfying thud against skull. He wasn't going to let her take him to whatever hell he probably deserved to go to. Not quietly, anyway. He swung and fought, bashing the flashlight into her head again and again until she collapsed with a final ugly splat on the floor. He was out of breath, but he was alive. His mind was still spinning with terror. She was dead, and she came after me. Is she going to stay dead this time? He shined the flashlight on the lifeless corpse on the floor. He recognized the ugly maroon sweater instantly. The same sweater he'd bought for Christmas last year. His heart sank past the point of any despair known to mankind. The beam of the flashlight quivered over the lifeless, bludgeoned form of his mother. What had he done? In his panic and paranoia, he'd murdered his own mother, killed her like some kind of savage animal. He dropped to his knees, tears streaming down his face, which was now contorted into a silent, miserable cry of anguish. "Oh, God, Mom, no!" He wept deeply as he held her. She was already turning cold. What had he done? He cradled the lifeless body of his mother, much as she cradled him when he was young. Whenever he woke up from a nightmare, which was frequent, she was always there to hold him and comfort him. "There's no such thing as monsters," she'd say. But she was wrong. Not all monsters hide in closets or go bump in the night. They don't have green fur or terrible claws, no giant fangs or sharp pointy horns. Some monsters live inside us. They devour us from within until there's nothing left but fear and despair. He held her and rocked her and cried for some time. It was all over. There was no way to take any of it back. He didn't know what to do, so he just sat there with her, sobbing tears of unfathomable grief. Then he heard a voice. "Honey, where are you?" The hair stood up on the back of his neck, and his blood froze in his veins. The closet door opened again. He looked up at the dirt-covered form through burning, teary eyes. It was silhouetted against the basement light, but he recognized that shape. Even with her head tilted at that unnatural angle, he recognized her. But he didn't recognize the voice. The thing growled through a dead and rotting throat. He didn't have time to scream before the lights went out, and he heard the last words that he would ever hear.
"Found you."